Guys, so today we're gonna learn all the Python basics, and this is gonna be a short video, like 30 minutes to 1 hour. I just don't know the length right now. So basically, we're gonna cover all the basics in very short interval of time, and we're gonna cover everything, so you don't need to worry. This is the only video on Python basics you need, and this is the only AI/ML series you need to follow on YouTube. So let's get started and let's talk about why Python is so popular and why it is so frequently used in AI/ML. So basically, uh, you see, Python is really simple. For example, you want to print something out on the screen. This is a simple command to print something on the output screen. So, for example, if I want to print something out on the output screen, I simply write print and the text I want to print, for example, wild with code WWC in these semicolons. So I simply write that and I simply click this a play button or a run button here, and it simply prints the code. Okay. For the same thing in other languages like C++, Java, C, you have to write around 8 to 10 lines of code. So Python is really simple to understand and it's fast. So basically that's why it's so popular. And why it is used in AI/ML, it has a lot of libraries that makes the learning of AI/ML easier and efficient when we go into AI/ML. It is really good to use these libraries. It saves a lot of times and there are good frameworks built around it. So that's why it is used in AI/ML. So this is complete. Next, let's write your first let us write our first Python program. So let's simply print something on the screen and let's comment something. Let's use a comment. Basically, whenever I type something with hash in the starting, for example, I love wild with good. You see this line appears in green because the compiler doesn't read it and treats it as a comment. Means comments are used for developers to uh, share what they are doing in their code. For example, I'm creating a big code base and I want to share it with other developers. So I will use these comments at every part of my code to tell other developers what that block of code does. Okay, so for multi-line comment, we encoded in a triple quotes, and you see this line is this comment is across multiple lines. So that's how we write a multi-line comments. You must remember that these comments are ignored by the compilers, right? So let's go. Now let's talk about some Python characteristics. First of all, it's a high-level language. That means simply means that it's not very much connected to the hardware stuff. For example, with the C++, you can program hardware C and C++, but with Python and Java like languages, you can only work on softwares, and they directly don't interfere with the system's kernel level and hardware stuff. So that's what we mean by high-level languages. It's dynamically typed. Uh, Whenever you are declaring a variable in other languages, you have to write something like int var equal to 3. For example, there's something in C++ and Java, and you also have to use a semicolon here. But in Python, you can simply write name is Alex, and you see, the compiler will automatically detect the variable type. So, and it's an object-oriented language. That simply means that it uses classes and object to manage data, manages data. We will learn about object-oriented programming in detail. Uh, you just need to know about it a little. Uh, let's get it. Let's get ahead. Sorry. Okay, so now let's learn about variables, multiple assignment, and sorting variables. You see, variable is anything that stores some data and that can data that can change. For example, I uh, used a variable here, name, and you see if I hover over this, I see a variable name here. This is how compiler reads it. So I can create multiple types of variables in Python. For example, I can create a number equals 34. I can create a bool value. For example, is student equals shoe, right? So this is a string. This is an integer, and this is basically an Boolean value. We will learn the use of Boolean value in better in our next video. But for now, you can simply know that it is used to store true and false. What it does, we will learn it our next video. Now we also can store a floating point number, which I wrote fnum. And for example, let's store 45.56, and that's a floating point number. So uh, these are all the different type variables we can use in Python. Now let's us understand about multiple assessment. For example, I want to assign three variables simultaneously. So what I will do? I will write a comma b comma c, and I simply write their values. For example, 13, 14, comma 15. And if I print all these things, for example, if I write to print a comma b comma c, and I run this program, you see the values of these variables are printed right here. Okay, great. One thing you should note that if I write anything inside these double quotes or single quotes, it is treated as a string, and if I don't write it, the value of the variable will be printed. For example, if I want to print a comma b comma c, I will write it like this. Um, just a second. Yep, a comma b comma c. Right. So if I run this program again, you see now the value of variables are printed and a comma b comma c is printed separately. So I hope you understand it. It's not some very complex things. One thing more, if you want the notes and the DBT sheet to this lecture, you should go for my Telegram. I'll attach the link in the description. So you can read out the notes and you will understand these concepts. These are very simple concepts and you don't need to worry a lot about them. You will learn these further as we move further in the next videos. One thing you should note is that you'll learn more about coding by actually doing coding rather than watching tutorials. So that's why I try to keep these tutorials really short so that you have most of your time to really code things out. So we will build a project after every of these lectures. So don't you need to worry, you will get enough practice. So that's great. We have printed these. We have learned multiple assessment, and now let us learn how to swap variables in Python. Whenever you want to swap variables in some other language like C++ or Java, you have to write minimum. You have to create a function that does that specifically. But in Python, you simply write a comma b equals b comma a, and it swaps these variables for you. For example, if I print these variables now, a comma b, see the original values of a comma b was 13 and 14, but now their values have turned into 14 and 13. So that what it swapping in Python really is. For example, I just write it. Swapping. Here I have swapped the values. So in developer style, I will write swapping next to it so that some other one who other developer who is studying this will understand. It's just a basic example. That's how things are really done in tech. And okay, so all these things are over. Now let us understand about various data types. Uh, till now we have only learned this only the number fourth um, one is about coding. All this is theory. So I think you must go and create some variables after this lectures. And now let us uh, learn about some data types. So basically, data types are ways to store data in Python. So basically, whenever you create a data variable, for example, I created name equals Alex. So basically, it is stored, that data Alex is stored in the string Alex is stored in a variable name. Name, it's a literal. You can see when I hover over it, it shows a literal, which means a string. String is basically any text written inside double quotes. And if you hover over this number, you see it's basically stored as an integer value, right? You see it is a number here, an integer here. And when I hover over this, you see it's stored as a Boolean value. So these are basically different ways to store data in Python. So basically, uh, you can store the data as an integer, floating point number, as a Boolean number, which means true and false, as a string, as a complex number. This Python allows you to store data as a complex number. For example, I want to store z equals a plus ib. Actually, we use j here, and with this project. So this is the data here is stored as a complex number. You can see it shows complex. So basically, you can store complex numbers in these also, but we don't usually work a lot with complex number. But they are extremely important in research purposes. So all these things are done. Now, when we talk about collections, we will separately talk about collections in a detailed video. So, but you should know that there are type of data, there are ways of storing data only. So we'll talk about it separately. So this is done also. Now let us study about type and resistance. Whenever we have to check the type of something in Python, we use the type function. For example, I want to check the type of this fnum here, the variable which I have created just here. So I simply uh, type and in brackets I'll type fnum. And if I run this program, if I run this, okay. So I've just not printed this. Let's print this. Right. By fnum, and if I run this, you see it shows class float here. Means the Python is treating this number as a floating point number. Uh, Now if we check the type of some other functions, like we check the type of z, we check the type of a, we check the type of is student. Let's run this. You see, all these types are printed here in Python. So if you have any confusion about why Python is allocating your variable into, you can simply use this command. Now, so we were learning existing instance here. So basically, the second I is also small. Uh, So what do is this basically uh, check whether a variable belongs to a certain data type or not. For example, let's give you an example. For example, on some site, you want to enter date, age. For example, my age is 21. So I want to enter that on a site. But some people might type some string or some text in that or some special characters in that box. So we have to specifically code the website in such a way that it only accepts integers in age section, right? So basically, with that type of work, we use something like isInstance. For example, we have to check whether uh, our age, let's create a variable age here, age equals 21, and let's check whether this age is an integer or not. And let's print it out. And let's run this. You see, it prints true, which means that the variable age that we have created is treated as an integer by Python. So that's great. Now, so this is over. We can also check some other types, uh, for example, if we check fnum and int, you see it gives false because it is treated as a float here. So if we check fnum float, it's true. If we check is the student uh, bool, bool simply means true and false. See, it's true, right? So you can check this. You can play with this the whole night if you want, as much as you want, as much as you love for coding. Now let us learn about different type of operators used. Okay, so let's learn about the different type of operators used in Python. First are arithmetic operators. These are usually used to perform basic mathematics in Python. So you can see all these. First up, we got addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Then we got row division. Then we got modulus and exponentiation. Let's work one by one. These all these things one by one. For example, uh, you see, I have written all this in a multi-line comment here. So this is how you use multi-line comments. Uh, let's go and code it out. So basically, let's create some variables. For example, I created a equals to 15 and b equals to 25. So basically, I want to create a variable c such that it is a plus b, and I want to create a variable d, which is basically a minus b. And I want to create a variable e, which is a into b, f, which is basically a divided by b, g, which is basically a modulus b, and h, which is basically a row division b. So let's see. I don't think I've missed it. Exponentiation. Let's see. Hi equals a exponentiation v. Right. So let's print out all these variables. Print and basically c, comma d, comma e, comma f, comma g, comma h, comma I, and let's run this. Yeah. It's a second. Yeah. So you see, c is printed out to be 40, which is simply a plus b. And D is printed out as minus 10. 15 minus 25 is minus 10. E is printed out to be 375, which is multiplication of 25 and 15. And F is printed out to be A by B, the simple division. But now let us understand this one. This is basically modulus division, which gives out the remainder. When A is divided by B, 15 is divided by 25. Basically, the remainder is 15, so it gives out 15. Now, the flow division basically gives you uh, this thing, the co quotient here. So when 15 is divided by 25, we generally don't get a quotient. For example, we use something like 150 here and 100 again. So you see the quotient here is 6. So flow division basically gives us the quotient without these decimal places, right? It doesn't basically takes the division to decimal places. It just gives the nearest quotient. Now we talk about power. You see this a to the power 25 is a big number. So you see it is effectively done here. So you can do all this in Python. These are basically called as arithmetic operators. Now let us know a little about comparison operators. Comparison operators are basically used to compare values and they return true or false. We will understand about all these three in great detail in the next lecture. But for now, just look at them. For example, if we have to compare two variables, for example, like if we have to check that two variables are equal, so we use this one, right? If they are not equal, we use this one. Similarly, we can check whether they are greater than or less than or greater than equal to or less than equal to, right? I will teach you these in great detail in the next lecture, but for now, you just have to uh, uh, have a basic knowledge about this. Now, let's go and understand the assignment operators. Basically, these are used to make the code a little shorter. They don't do a lot of work, but they do some work. For example, let's copy these. Let's take one of these, and let's take one of these. So basically, what this line of code is simply means is that x divided equals to 3, simply x equals x divided by 3. This is the same way of writing this thing, just a shorted format. If you run this code here, uh, it will give an error because the x is not defined here. So basically, let's give x a value, for example, 15, and let's run this code here. And I don't know what it has done. Just a second, the terminal looks a little bad. Let's clear it out. But you can use the clear command to basically clear out the terminal. Oh, sorry, I've not printed all these. So basically, if I print all these, just a second. But print x of if I print x after each of these statement, stop it and just get off the way of this statement. And you see the value of x has changed according to a function. For example, x equal to 15. We have written x equals to x multiplied by 3. 15 3s are 45. And for here we have written x equal to x divided by 4. So the value has changed according to that. So that's all about the assignment operators. You can learn more about these in the notes and we should practice these. And even in the starting, if you don't write these, they are extremely fine, but you should always know about it as you can see this in many of the code bases. Now let us learn about logical operators. Logical operators work a little same as the comparison operators. Comparison operators basically compare different type of variables, but the logical operators basically check conditions. For example, if I have two conditions that uh, if it rains, Alex didn't go to school. But if it doesn't rain, Alex goes to school. So basically, we have two conditions, and we have to check whether one of these condition is true, or if both condition is true, or if none of these conditions are true. So basically, in that case, we use these type of operators. We will learn about these more in the next video because this is better taught with the conditionals and loops. But as I have to teach you the arithmetic ones here, so I've mentioned it over here. You can read this, and next video we will cover this in detail. So don't worry about it. So all this is done. Now let us learn about this input function right here. So for example, what we were doing right now, we were creating a variable and simply printing it. But now we want that the variable must be entered by the user. So just saying, let me just close this terminal right here. Here is terminal right here. So now we want that the variable must be entered by the user. So basically, what we will do, we will use the input function here. So basically, input function here. So we simply write input, and inside these simple brackets, we will write the text which has to appear before the input. For example, enter your age, and then we will simply print it out. Yep. So let's run this, and it is asking for to enter your age. For example, I enter 34. It prints 34. Now, one more thing, if we check the type of this age, hmm, just print it out. Let's go with the print it out. So if we check the type of this age variable we have created right here, it is giving the output as string. So you must learn this that the input functions basically stores the variable in a string format. So if we want an integer input, basically we will uh, simply write int at the starting of this in this input function. And now if we run this code again, we write our age, which is 25. We see that the input has turned into an integer input. Same way you can convert this into input into floating point number, or you can convert it is string by default, so you can convert it to floating point number, and you can convert this into certain other ways. You will see about that when we code only. I'm not gonna lecture you a lot about this. When you need it, you'll use it. So that's all about the input tag. Great. Hey guys, so this is the final part of our video. So now we're going to learn typecasting. We've learned all this, and we're going to learn typecasting in the next few minutes. So basically, typecasting is used to convert variable of one type into another type. For example, this n is 24 here it is an integer. I want to convert this into a floating point number. Floating point number means I want it to be more accurate. I want it to be more precise after the decimal. I want it to be stored as 24.0, 24.00. So basically, I'll simply write this line. It simply means that n is converted into float. And if I print nnm, you see the value of n is printed as 24, which is an integer, but the value of m is printed as 24.0, which is n converting to float. So that is basically simple typecasting. You can also convert this, you can also introduce a third variable right here and convert this into a string. And if you print x also here, then see, it's printed 24. But if you check the type of x, check the error most probably. If you check the type of X only, it will give you string. Whether if you check the type of M, it will give you a float, and if you check the type of N, it will give you an integer. So that is all about typecasting. I won't go into my detail of this because you won't use it. You won't generally use it. It's just there, and you need to know it, but you don't use it a lot, right? So that completes our video. You can make sure you go into the description of this video and join my Telegram. I'll give out the notes of this video, plus I'll give out a sheet which we will solve in the next video, right? So thank you guys. That's all for now.